Right now, Janet Yellen is testifying before the Senate Finance Committee in her confirmation hearing for Treasury Secretary. In her opening statement, she spoke on the necessity for Biden's proposed relief plan.
Over the next few months, we're going to need more aid. Neither the president-elect nor I proposed this relief package without an appreciation for the country's debt burden. But right now, with interest rates at historic lows, the smartest thing we can do is act big. In the long run, I believe the benefits will far outweigh the costs.
Bloomberg's Laura Davison has been listening and live blogging the hearing, and she joins me now with the latest. Laura, thanks for breaking away from the update to bring us the latest. The hearing has been underway for a few hours now so far. What's the biggest takeaway?
Well, the biggest takeaway is this is a different Janet Yellen than we saw as Fed chair. She is a lot more open, more political. She was, had a very strong stance against China and said, look, they are using abusive practices, and we need to go after them. She's here selling President-elect Joe Biden's stimulus plan that he introduced last week, making the case for a $15 minimum wage, more relief checks, enhanced unemployment benefits. So we're really seeing kind of a different public figure than we've seen in the past.
Well, we've never quite seen a Treasury Secretary confirmation hearing like this, Laura. Yellen is, of course, calling in remotely. I think she's using Google Hangouts. The signal keeps going out, and it seems to be like she's using Google. Climate change was brought up. A phone rang at some point. We also had senators get called on who weren't actually there. What are some other firsts that are happening right now?
We're also hearing her talk about some mistakes that Biden and the Obama administration made during the last financial crisis. That was sort of interesting hearing her, talk about, hey, look, we made mistakes in responding to this. The Congress didn't approve enough money, didn't send enough money out into the economy, and we need to make sure we don't make that this time. We need to approve more stimulus, get that money out, and get it quickly. So that was a very interesting note that she was, essentially criticizing the response in the past.
What did we hear from Yellen about taxes? We heard a question about state and local tax deduction and the limits on SALT deductions that were put in place by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the Trump administration tax cuts that were pushed through a few years ago.
Yeah, this is something that Democrats have wanted to undo ever since Republicans did it back in 2017. This would expand a tax break that particularly helps people in New York, New Jersey, California. And Yellen essentially dodged. She said she wanted to study this more. She wanted to look at the effects on state and local government budgets, how this affects households. That's something that Democrats in Congress, are going to want a stronger response from her on. They want to move legislation on that very quickly. So that is one area where we could see Yellen break a little bit from some of her allies in Congress. She also talked about tax increases. The Biden campaign had talked about a whole wide swath of tax increases, and she basically said, we're looking at these, but not yet. We want to get through the pandemic. We want businesses and households to get back on their feet, and then we'll talk about raising corporate rates and individual rates.
There were also some questions about minimum wage here from Senator Tim Scott, because the Biden economic plan does include raising the minimum wage to $15. What was the conversation around minimum wage?
Yeah, Tim Scott basically made the point. He said, look, I think that businesses are going to have to cut jobs. This will be hard on the economy if, particularly for lower wage jobs, restaurants and such, if we go all the way to a $15 wage, mandated across the country. And Yellen said, look, there is a ton of academic literature out there, particularly looking at side-by-side states, where one state will raise the minimum wage and the neighboring state does not. And she said that there were, quote, very minimal job losses in these situations. So she's saying, look, this is good for workers, good for families, that people can earn a living wage or working 40 hours a week. And she said that there are minimal, larger effects on the economy and on the negative side.
Laura, thank you for breaking away. We are going to let you get back to live blogging. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. That's Bloomberg's Laura Davison in Washington.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quicktake now for insight in an instant.